Hello, everybody. My name is Brad Johnson. I'm running a website now called newearthteachings.com. I'm doing private sessions now for a couple more months, and then I'm going to be phasing that into a new project, which is called the New Earth Academy. And this is going to be kind of like a spiritual Netflix. It's going to have a lot of information from spirituality, consciousness, new developments of thought, awareness, looking into like magic, looking into astrology, looking into how to build a tiny house, learn how to live off the grid, learn about raw food. I mean, really just all the new concepts that are really much more organic and natural for a lot of us. So that's basically what it's going to be presenting in that way. But right now I've been doing this work now for about 10 years. And so I basically started getting into meditation because I was never into meditation before that. And I just started, I just went to my library. I got a book out called Learn How to Meditate, read it from front cover to back cover within a few weeks. And then I was just getting all of these deep download states just by doing the exercises within it. And I was just going to sleep at night. I would be in these non-physical classrooms, and I'd wake up the next morning knowing things I didn't know before. And so this was just really intriguing to me, feeling all this connection to meditation. And then I was very interested in channeling as well too. I started researching that, and I was kind of just looking at it as an investigator at first. And then I just wanted to look at it and say, okay, I'll just check this out and see how it is. So I talked to a few other channelers, and I would look into how they were doing channeling in their own way. And I would kind of just amalgamate all of those things that I understood and created my own particular way about how I would do like a channeled writing and then eventually go into vocal channeling. But a friend of mine said, oh, well, Brad, you have very strong connections to the star of Sirius, and you should look into that. You should channel that energy. And so I connected to that, and that's when the being known as Adronis, who I channel the most, came through. And he basically said, Brad, I am a version of you 297 years within the future. I've come back at this time to share a great deal of spiritual evolutionary knowledge with you. And if you decide to do this, then not only will you be learning about this great spiritual evolution as well, but you'll be taking others with you as you learn it as well too. Is this something that you want to do? And I agreed. And so since that time, I've been channeling him since 2008. And now it's just been this incredible transformational experience, because every time he comes through, you're just learning something new all the time. He's like an Encyclopedia Britannica of the galaxy. There's so much information. It's just basically, as a channeler, you're doing what you can to try and comprehend that, because I am connecting with him in a very conscious state, kind of a slightly altered state of consciousness. It's almost kind of like if you were to go into a hypnotic trance in that way. I don't go into a deep trance, but I know that something is being altered there. And I'm going into a heightened brainwave state as well too. I've had some quantum biofeedback gizmos hooked up to me back in 2010, and they were basically all just confirming what Adronis was as he described himself. And so that's, again, a great confirmation. I haven't got to the point of hooking up diodes in the head yet, but maybe that's down the road. But yeah, I mean, all of this has really just been an incredible journey. I started getting into a lot more areas, from meditation to channeling, to Akashic Records reading, to looking into dream interpretation, to remote viewing, and just many different things. So I did quite a few things throughout these past few years, and there's a lot of knowledge that I've received. And so now I'm going to be, again, going through this brand new project with New Earth Academy, and just start putting as much of that information out as possible, and just working with people in groups. But I am, again, doing private sessions up until about late April. Basically, one of my first things when I was starting to vocally channel Adronis was that you sit in meditation for an hour and you just deep breathe. You just do so much deep breathing that your whole body is just charged with all this oxygen, and your body becomes so intense, it's even hard to even move anything, right? You feel so numb. And it's almost like you're feeling like you're at the dentist, right? You just feel like the body is numb everywhere. And that was one of my experiences with being able to calibrate myself to channel him vocally. And that was really, really intense. And so after that, he started to come in a lot more clearer. Basically, when you start to channel, you need a lot of oxygen in the body, right? You need a lot of energy. So if you're a very shallow breather and you go into meditation and sometimes you can't hold the frequency, it's because it requires a lot of energy on your behalf, right? So usually you do some very deep breathing techniques as well. I was even talking to one popular channel when I was first starting to begin, Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar. I would throw him some emails back and forth, and I would just ask him, well, what did you do when you started channeling Bashar? And so he gave me some advice with that as well. And he was just telling me, again, some very basic things. And it really got a very great clarity with what I needed to do to channel. And so I just started to connect in those particular forms of advice, did some deep breathing, and it kind of just led me over the years where I can now just connect with Adronis very, very naturally. I do channel multiple beings. Like Adronis would be about 90% of the time. There's another connection in Sirius that is his feminine counterpart known as Rayar. So she comes through. She refers to herself as a singer of Sirius light. She's very, very feminine. So when I bring her in, I just go very, very feminine with her energy. It's a little interesting at times. So there's people like, oh, you're bad. I like to channel Rayar. I'm like, oh, okay.
Beloveds, we want to thank you personally for your interaction with us today. We want you to know, dearest ones, that we're always watching you, that we're always here. Although you may not be able to see us through your physical eyes, you may not be able to hear us through your physical ears, we are here, and we are present amongst you.
So not that I say I don't love her, she's a great energy and all that stuff, it's very, very feminine with her. Then there was other connections I did with the Yao hybrid races, with another one called Kalina, another one called Kirioki. There was another connection I had with a guy named Randall from the 33rd century. I've connected with quite a few beings. Yes. But like I said, 90% is with Adronis. I'm the most comfortable with him. So he's very much like my energy. And so that's primarily who I channel with the most.
Cool. And then all those other entities that you channel, was that introduced to you and like invited?
Yeah. Yeah, they all came in appropriate times. When I connected with Rayar, I was actually doing a oneness blessing, and I was doing some pranayama breathing, right? Rapid fire breathing as well too. And basically you're just breathing in for a certain amount of time, then you just kind of drift, right? And then you just kind of go into those visions. And then I saw this other feminine version of a female of Adronis coming through in my vision, and she introduced herself as Rayar. But yeah, I was very much into the logical side of life. I was very much into the material plane and all that. And I was more of the person that would want to see other people succeed rather than myself, right? I would just be a stepping stone for people. So when I started getting into spirituality and consciousness, and this was a void within myself that got filled. And then I realized, what have I been doing, right? I've just been putting so much of my energy to make sure other people became successful or happy. And I'm in the background here, just sitting back here. I'm happy that other people are doing well, but don't I deserve to be well as well too, right? And so that's where everything started to shift. And I was married at the time and got separated because it was very much like that energy, right? And then I just started to go on my own and started to develop all this spiritual consciousness knowledge and started to apply it into my life. And that's one of the big things, is that you have to apply this knowledge, right? There's so much knowledge on the internet. You hear a lot of knowledge from people. It's not just about knowledge. It's about applying it and making it into wisdom, right? That's the most important thing. So it's what I've referred to as shadow law and light law, right? So when we're going into shadow law, it's all about confusion. It's all about the aspect of conflict. And we're attempting to learn past conflict. We're attempting to realize that our shadows are our greatest teachers. And when we're getting something about a conflicting situation with a family member, or we're having problems with work, or we're having financial difficulties, these are all the shadows. They're telling us, oh, well, you're lack, because this is all the focus you're putting into, and saying, oh, why do I have to do this today? Why am I have to doing this job? I hate this job so much. I don't want to do it anymore. But I have to get up, I have to go to bed, and I have to get up in the morning, brush my teeth, and then I'm off to work doing a job that I hate. Well, you're basically going right into shadow law without learning about what it is, right? You're feeding the shadow even though you can't stand it. And that's where people get very confused and feel like conflicts start to emerge, and they get all this anger and it's bubbling up inside them until they basically just explode. And children really are the teachers. They're the ones that have the vigilant imagination. They're telling us to let go of things and to be in the middle of here and now and play. And that's really what Adronis teaches. Is just go outside and play, have fun, enjoy your life, right? And then you'll just come to a point where you're just making peace with yourself. So just keep bringing in a lot of positive transformation within your life. Keep playing with your passions, and there will just come a point where you've done that so much, you're just completely in peace, right? You basically transcend passion, and you're now just in a state of balance, and you're just kind of in that I am presence, right? And you're no longer ambitious about things. You're just kind of following things in that way.
Earlier in your life, you've always felt this kind of desire to do something like this, or is this just
no? That was never on my mind to do any of this stuff when I was little. I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness when I was born, and I was never into the psychic world or anything. So I thought it was fascinating, but I was always encouraged, oh my God, it's demonism, don't look at that, you'll get possessed by the devil if you start looking into the psychic world and all that stuff. So I didn't really think too much of it. It wasn't until, again, my later years, right into about the mid to late 20s, where I started to get a little bit more fascinated by the psychic world and all that. But you just come to a point and saying, yeah, I want to understand more about this. So I was very, very hungry for knowledge when I was first starting this stuff. I wanted to know about everything about channeling. I wanted to know everything about meditation. I wanted to know everything about energy healing and the Akashic records and communicating with ETs and our ancient Earth history, Lemuria, Atlantis. I wanted to know it all. I was just very, very hungry, right? And then as the years passed, you just start to mellow it out a little bit. It's still exciting to listen to all those things, but it's not, again, such a crucial point. It's not about this is it or else, right? It's no longer about that mentality anymore. That's where I feel I am, is I'm just at that point of saying I'm having fun, I'm playing with stuff, I'm playing with the academy, it's a fun thing to do, but it's something that that when the time comes when I'm able to drop it and pass it on, I can do that, right? And I don't have a problem with that. So that's really where I see it going.
Yeah, that's very cool. And then do you want to talk about your lifestyle, how it's changed? I think you're moving into a more natural kind of environment.
Yeah, I was really into the woods, right? Really going back into the wild a lot more. That's been something that's really just been quite interesting. So I was starting to get more into looking into nature. And again, it was kind of like a download that was happening. I was getting really into Qigong. I'm still doing a lot of Qigong right now, and I do it outside. I do it in nature. And I just go into meditation afterwards, and I feel this is it. This is peaceful. This is what I absolutely love. And then I would have this vision about all this like infinite stairwell that's going up a mountain, right? And it showed a gate was opening, and it says, okay, you can step through. And I was wondering what that meant, and really what that represented was like it was an ego death that happened here just a few days ago. And it was the idea of the Brad Johnson character just retiring and just having this presence in his place. But when that happens, you're still going through some residual shifts, right? There's still going to be some residual memory. There's still going to be some residual habits, but you're no longer tied into everything that personality expects of you. And basically what I've told people as well too is if you really want to go into the greater depths of spiritual understanding, nature is the key, right? You can't do it in the city, right? As much as people love the city, they love it because much of the convenience that the city offers, and that's great. But if you really want to go deeper and deeper into spiritual understanding, if you truly want to understand the true transcendence of a personality in that way, nature has to be your guide. There's no way around it. When you connect with nature and you're in silence and there's just the birds chirping and there's a light breeze of wind and you're just feeling this connection with nature, every single person that goes out into nature that really just knows this is what they're being guided to, you see the smiles on their faces, right? You go around the cities, the busy metropolises, and you just see people, droning out, and they're just like on a conveyor belt to Dune, right? And so there's such a big difference. You take someone out into nature, and it brightens them up. Even if they feel like they've been on the city for a while, you keep them in nature for a while, they'll really start to bring their life back, right? But when you go back into those big metropolis cities, working 9 to 5 in the big corporate offices and all that, people just become drained. Their energies are drained. They're not fun to be around with. You can only really take small doses of them. And then they want to go grab their coffee, and then they're back to the grind again, right? When you're in nature, it's the complete and total opposite, right? It's the path of the masters. The masters basically reach a certain point where they say, I need to go into nature now. I'm going to go and retreat into nature. They either stay there or they're there for a certain amount of time, and they basically go into solitude. And then when they come out, if they decide to come out, they can't even relate to the modern world anymore. They can't relate to, so what are these things that people are carrying, these little screens and all that stuff? What is going on, right? I don't get this. They can't understand modern civilization. They can't understand how everybody's all separate and disconnected. It's alien to them, right? So when you basically come into the forest and you go into nature, you feel pure interconnectedness with everything. You're not in the aspect of a separation machine that would represent a major metropolis and major corporations, right? You're beyond all that, and you now come into the point where you're just feeling this oneness and connection. And you build yourself into such love that you just return back into the non-physical, because everything here is just showing you how you can transcend past the physical. We're on this planet to learn about how we can no longer need to be on this planet in that way, right? Just being one with it, being integrative with everything that nature is teaching you. And nature teaches you through silence, right? It's silence teachings, and those are the most powerful teachings there is. No words needed. It's just aligning to pure beingness.
Completely, because the city is also, you're so distracted.
It is. It's just noise, honk, 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 right? It's all of these 360-degree distractions all around you, and you don't even know where to focus. And you're putting all your energy towards billboard signs and towards advertisements, right? You're putting all of your energy towards this, and now that's just flashing back in your head all day long and saying, oh, I need to go get something to eat. Oh, I need to go have sex. I need to go do this. I need to go buy my girlfriend lingerie. Because you're putting all of this chi, all of this energy into all of these signs, and now they're coming back to you. So, okay, subliminal programming to the max, right?
All right, if you want to talk about anything regarding this year or anything that you've kind of come into knowledge-wise, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are.
Yeah, well, there was a video I did on my YouTube, which was about 2018, the year of renewal, right? So basically that's what's happening. I mean, that's certainly been happening with me, is there's been massive renewal. Like, we're only a few days into 2018, and I feel like completely renewed from what I was in 2017. So, and I'm seeing that with a lot of other people as well, too. They're feeling that I'm just being renewed. I feel like I'm being reborn. I feel like I'm coming out of a womb, or I'm coming out of a cocoon, and I'm a butterfly, and I'm ready to soar, right? And people who may not be there yet, they realize that things are culminating together, and it's all encouraging them to renew themselves, right? So the year of renewal is really what this represents. And 2019 will represent the year of innovation, right? So there'll be a lot of innovation. There'll be a lot of new ideas coming together. It's being able to take your renewal and now being able to innovate yourself into the aspect of this new being. So we're going to see a lot of personal innovation in 2019. And I would say the best thing for you to learn is go back into the primordial roots of something, right? Bring it back into its original essence, rather than feeling, well, here's a small thing and here's another small thing. And you're only looking at some of the parts. You're only looking at those small specks. So it's really just being able to trace everything back, go back into the primordial seed, and look at, you know, what that true nature is. And really everything stems from that, from astrology, from yoga, from qigong, from a lot of the old martial arts, from everything. Just stems right back into that primordial seed. And you just go back there, and now everything's accessible to you. But it's like I said, you want everything, give everything up. That's the key.
Yeah.
It's paradox, right? And paradox is the true, that's the answer, that's the solution to everything, is when you play with paradox.
These energies that are hitting us now, that's opening up our consciousness, how is that exactly opening up our consciousness and allowing this information to flow?
Well, it's kind of like looking at ourselves coming out of a shell, right? So basically, if we're in a shell of density, of a great amount of denseness for hundreds or even thousands of years, then basically what happens is that shell is eventually going to crack, right? And that's basically what a lot of these energies are doing. So it's kind of like looking at this hard shell in the middle of a calm ocean. And now the ocean is starting to get a lot more intense. So now we're going to start getting some waves, and we're going to start getting some big tidal waves. And so as these waves keep crashing upon the shell is going to crack even more, and now there's going to start being holes in it. And then eventually that shell will start to fall apart altogether. And basically this is what's going to lead us into shifting energies in that way. The earth is changing, and she is going to change. It's up to us to decide if we're going to go along with it or not. So people may want to remain within the material world. They want to remain with what they feel they need in that way. And the earth will allow that, right? You're basically just going to be going through much more of the denseness with this tidal wave of energy that's coming in. So we're definitely having an increase of solar activity that's been happening. We're definitely having a lot more cosmic dust and energy coming into the star system. There's a lot of factors that are coming together. The earth herself is shifting. This is why we're having a lot of earth shifts, a lot of weather changes, volcanic activity, earthquakes. All of this is happening as well too. She's really just inverting herself right now and opening up a greater tidal wave of transformation. And in order for this to happen, change is part of the cycle that we're going into right now. In order for the earth to have this, we as a culture are changing. And so we're matching together with all of the other synchronicities that the earth is going through her own changes of weather patterns, through her own ecological changes, the changes of the animals, the plants, vegetation. Everything's just in sync right now. So basically we have to decide, do I want to go with the earth or do I want to ride the tides, right? And when you're riding the tides, it's going to be a very, very difficult journey. And most likely you'll get wiped out. So basically it's just saying, what can I do to get myself in alignment, to work together with what truly matters? And it's not about the materialism you have. It's not about what you're holding on to. It's about your inner connections. It's about the inner world. We put so much energy into this outer world. And that's just not the natural way of going about things, right? If we're going to spend so much time in the outer world, we are deeply limiting ourselves. That's what creates the shell in the first place. When you go more into your inner world, you see everything. You know, you're seeing the true universe within yourself. That's where we're headed right now. And that's why there's a bigger, quote unquote, awakening that's taking place with inner transformation. So if you're holding on to a great deal of fear or a great deal of anger or animosity towards another person, you're basically creating these tidal waves in the sand in the first place, right? You're creating all these rifts because emotion is a very, very powerful energy. It's one of the most powerful energies there is. When you're very emotional about something, you're stacking up all these feelings that have been neglected within yourself. And it's like watching a volcano about to become active and spew all this magma, right? That's basically what emotion does. And so emotion is basically like a gauge, like, you know, okay, you're going off into the yellow, you're going into the orange, now you're going off into the red, now you're just going to be going completely insane, right? And that's basically what we do, is we try to control so much, right? That's what man tries to do so much, is the ability to try and control everything. Nature doesn't need you to control it, right? Nature is already in a harmonious system as it is. So basically there's two options. One, you go with the flow with nature, you start to work with yourself, you evolve with the planet. Two, you try to control everything and you watch yourself spiral into disaster. That's basically how it is in a very simplistic way.
I think that's a really interesting way to say it, because now it's like you can picture all the things that are happening to the planet, and almost it represents her emotions.
That's it. This is exactly, she's just mirroring what we're doing to ourselves, because really the earth is just being a big hologram for ourselves as well too. All of these things happen because it's showing us this is not the way to go. Every time we try to control something, nature responds and saying, this is what you're doing. Are you being aware of it? Oh yeah, we'll just cover it up. Let's make a scandal or something like that, right? And we'll cover up and we won't worry about it. We'll put some newspaper over it, right? And then of course the newspaper starts to blow away and something even more intense happens and saying, do you see what you're doing here? Do you see what happens when you're trying to control nature? Oh yeah, we're not going to worry about it. We'll just do a press release and don't worry, nobody will know. And then again, it comes even more intense and saying, what do we have to do to show you what you're doing to yourselves? Wake up, right? Realize exactly what you're putting out into reality. And really the whole idea is that when we align to nature, when we start moving back into the simplicity of things, this is where our inner abilities start to shine a lot more. Where we're basically going back into the point to where the indigenous people lived, right? That's where our great future would be, if you were to put it in that way, is that a lot of how the Native Americans lived, a lot of how the indigenous people have lived with tribal societies, with eco-communities in that way, that's where we're going. That's our future. This whole aspect of corporations and businesses that have tried to control everything are on the way out. And the next few years are going to see themselves going through more struggle. People who don't want to evolve, then they'll cling to those systems because they feel that that's their God. But if you're basically looking to evolve yourself and move into simplicity and work with your inner being, you're going to go more towards nature. You're going to go more towards the organic flow rather than the artificial flow. The greatest aspect of beingness is being completely and totally empty and not having any particular forms of passions or ambitions or anything of that nature. And some people will say, oh, Brad, but I love to be passionate about this. Well, then go play with it. Go play with your passions until your passions basically run out and there's nothing left to be passionate about. You're balancing yourself out, right? You're only using passion as a counterbalance to negative energy, right? So with all of your belief systems that you're putting together, then you're using passion and saying, okay, I'm going to reinforce myself. I'm going to go this positive path. I'm going to follow this new task that I want to do, this new career. It's going to be really, really exciting. We'll go for it. Then that's basically rekindling yourself. But there will come a point in saying that, yeah, I've done all that. I'm fine. I'm completely balanced to what I feel I want to do. And that's basically the wavelength. You're hitting a new wavelength and you're flowing more with nature in that sense. So it's all based upon what we're putting into our bodies, relating to either a compliment to ourselves or a consequence to ourselves. So anyways, I will go ahead and bring him in and we'll get started. We are here at this time, and we bid you greetings, and thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction today. I am Adronis of Sirius, sending love, appreciation, and gratitude to the individual known as Billy, and to your audience. Thank you, and how may we assist you today?
Hi, Adronis. Pleasure meeting you and speaking with you.
We thank you as well. Getting softer from being harder is basically stating that everything has been a density. It has related to the idea of feeling that you have been completely condensed and relied upon through a physical reality. Basically, many of the rulers of your planet, going back many, many centuries and even many millennia, have basically seen this particular domain as a domain that is looking to be conquered. And basically that they want to conquer it and make it in their own image so that they could see themselves as gods among men. And that you have been dealing with this through so many different civilizations that have come and gone, from your ancient Greece, from your ancient Rome, from your ancient Peru, from all of these different forms of civilizations that have come and gone. And now they are beginning to realize that where you are right now is a new transformation. You're looking at a modern civilization, again, that follows very similarly to how much of the old empires themselves once functioned. Only this time, the people are learning to take their power back. And because they're learning to take their power back, it comes through softness. It does not come through hardness, retaliation. It comes from the ability of non-violent resistance, as you would understand. It comes from the idea in that sense is that we're looking at what this shadow is showing us, and we're not going to follow the path of the shadow anymore. We're now going to move into a new direction. But the shadow has been educating you, telling you everything that you're not. And so in order for you to have that type of education, you are softening yourselves. You're moving into higher frequencies that represent subtle energy. Because that's the whole idea. If you have an emotional wavelength right here, and you have a subtle wavelength right here, you get more information from the subtle wavelength than you do the emotional. Because the emotional is very, very condensed. It's like being inside a small cube and telling you this is your reality because I am confined only based upon the conditions of the emotion and nothing else. So basically, in order for you to advance yourself past that, you are noticing again that you are softening. There are chips, there are holes, there are cracks within that cube. And now the wall is starting to fall apart because you have worked with that emotion. It's teaching you something. Your shadows are your teachers. The darkness is the teacher. When you start to learn from the darkness by looking at everything that you are not, you will catapult yourself into the light. That's how it works. That's the mechanic. Simply because darkness in that sense is knowledge altogether. That's where knowledge stems from. All knowledge comes from darkness. And it is when you are able to take that knowledge and discipline it and refine it and learn from it that it now becomes cracked, like charcoal that is crumbling away to reveal a diamond. And that's basically what's happening. The diamond is the result of the refinement from within the darkness. And now you're becoming this glowing, illuminating, shining diamond. That's how it works. You needed to go through the darkness to go through that refinement period of becoming a diamond from the charcoal. Make sense?
And going off of that, what is the most, I want to say powerful, but the most creative thought that we can empower ourselves with knowledge and information?
Well, let go of the idea of, in that sense, of one particular thought. Really, it just comes down to one particular understanding. Surrender. That's it. It goes beyond that aspect of a thought. It's simply a beingness. Is when you come into a state of surrender and you work with subtle energies and you become serene. That's how you are allowing yourself to become much more than what you see through the idea of this physical reality. This physical reality, in that sense, is a conditioned domain because there's only so much that you can do in such a physical reality like this. So basically, you have come into this planet to limit yourselves to climb out of the physical domain. But in order for you to do that, you need to align to what the rest of the universe is, and that is love. And the way that you understand love is the ability to surrender yourself. Again, this is not a difficult teaching. It's all about simplicity. But because your culture has been so heavily embedded and bred to look into complexity, many of you don't get it because you felt that you have had to live your lives in feeling so much complexity, in feeling so much hardship, in feeling so much effort. The universe doesn't work that way, dear humans. Never has, never will. This, again, is all part of a system of control. You have been under a veil of control for thousands and thousands of years by, again, many of these rulers who thought themselves to be gods among men. And now you're cracking that shell, and everything, every single thing that you have looked, that you have seen, that you have heard, that you have felt, that you have tasted, has been brought upon you to feel that this is how you need to live. You haven't even begun to live yet. When you start to crack past the surface and break past the shell, you now realize that where you are right now is at the innerness, the apex of your inner being. And now you're looking about how everything flows in a very gentle, soft, subtle current. And this is what takes you to everything, because you've let everything go. And that's the important lesson here. If you want to know everything, let everything go. Drop all the bags. Well, Adronis, what about my work? Drop it. Well, Adronis, what about my finances? Drop it. Because basically we're not saying for you to get rid of your work or get rid of your finances, but we are saying let go of the feeling that you need this. And that's basically what's holding you back. Many of you upon your planet, if we were to put it in an analogy, are basically carrying about 500 to 1 full ton of baggage per day. And that relates to your emotional states. And some of you may even look and say, well, that's not me. That's not me. Yes, that's you. That's you. It's you whom we're talking to. And basically when you start to notice that you're carrying all these bags of emotions, of belief systems, of mentalities, of moralities, of all of these aspects that confine you, that's what's making you feel more heavier. And that's why you feel that you need to look outside of yourself for some type of answer. Somebody will come along and bail me out with all this understanding. No, this is your job to do. And this is, again, what you have been bred to believe. Somebody else needs to come along as long as I press an easy button, and they're going to take care of this for me. No, they will not. It is nobody else's job to take care of you. It is your job to take care of yourself, to look at the baggage that you're carrying and drop every single one of it. So therefore, when you're working, you're in harmony with it. When you're acquiring financial abundance, you're in harmony with it. When you're working together with relationships, you're in harmony with them. Rather than feeling you have to, you should to, you must to, etc., etc., etc. Have to, must to, etc. All of that just becomes dribble. And therefore you create that as the gospel. I have to do this. I must do this. I should do this. I better do this. And again, that's you attempting to control your life rather than going with the current. It's basically you are acting out the microcosm of the macrocosm. The macrocosm representing control, while you're bringing a microcosmic aspect to that degree, because this is what you have been raised. So it goes back to that popular line throughout your Star Wars, unlearn what you have learned. And when you have done that, and you're now being completely released from the aspect of the grip of this control that you've placed yourself in, this is where the aspect of true liberation will follow.
And is that why it's so important to be more aligned with yourself, as in more unconditional loving to yourself and having gratitude and appreciation for everything that you do?
Well, yes, but the whole idea is that unconditional love is not forced. And basically this is what we see with people, is that they feel that they have to love everything even though they are basically anguishing at it from within. Be honest with your feelings, because you want to look into that anguish. You want to see exactly what that anguish is telling you. It's not about just saying, oh, love and like this and love and like that, when you're not feeling it at all, because you're using that as an identity. You're using that as a cover, as a veil, and that's not going to help you. It's the idea that when you're feeling uncomfortable with a situation, admit to yourself that you're feeling uncomfortable. It is not a quote unquote wrongness to feel uncomfortable about a situation. It's yourself telling you through your feelings, you know this is not going to work with you and that you're feeling anguish with this. Look into what that anguish is attempting to tell you. And when you start to make peace with that anguish, now that therefore becomes transcended into your whole being. And now you feel love out of it because you've been able to resolve the emotion that's been nagging at you for quite some time, that you've constantly ignored and put on the shelf and do not want to have anything to do with it. And that's, again, what's creating a greater confinement with yourself. Be honest with yourselves. That's very, very important. Honesty leads to the aspect of transmutation that will therefore move you into a greater plateau of love. But you must look into what you are holding on to and admit it to yourself.
And I've been reading a lot about this idea of this Mesopotamian folk religion, about this is a time where the Nagwals will wake up or kind of start changing things for this planet. What exactly is a Nagwal?
Well, again, that's just the aspect of a certain language in that time relating to those particular people who will come here functioning as a ground crew and basically create a new form of teaching. You could almost look at it in the way of new innovators, new teachers in that way, that will come upon this planet and basically offer this form of assistance because they are becoming the example of what other people can be. Make sense?
Well, that totally makes sense. Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit more on your relation to us as humans and how you have I guess, helped Brad deliver this information that you are really benefiting from us and how we can start to awaken?
You could refer to us as cosmic family because we do share similar genetics to yourselves, and we are part of your stellar ancestors in that way, that the Syrian people, in that sense, in fact, several different species of the Syrian people, actually have a mix of genetics with your own in that way. So it is family assisting family in that particular way. So basically, we have some particular type of quote-unquote karmic involvement with your planet because we have shared responsibility of ourselves upon it. And this is why we have come to share ourselves through Brad, because he represents another instance, another lifetime to our own soul vibration. And so basically, he is here on this planet representing much of our energy in that way. And so this is why we have come forward. He needed to attune himself at an appropriate time so that he could receive our transmission. And this is what he has been doing now for approximately 10 years of his time, is being able to receive our transmission. And all we are doing is sharing information based upon what serves together with you. And we have continued to do this because it is continuing to serve others. If it no longer serves, we won't be doing it. Now, we have the ability to shift into some particular type of physical presence, but that's not the point here. It's not about the idea of us coming onto your planet and saying, hey, humans, we're extraterrestrials and we're from this star and we're here to help you clean up your planet. No, because that immediately takes away your responsibility. You say, oh, well, they're here. Here you go. Here's all the paperwork. Get busy. And we're not here to do that, and neither is any other civilization. Do you ever wonder why it's so quiet? Why there are no civilizations that just come down on your planet and saying, people of Earth, here we are, we're here to help you. Because they are not to get involved in internal affairs in the development of this civilization. Again, there's another science fiction program that uses this idea called the Prime Directive, the law of non-interference. We are not here to interfere with the inner development of your civilization. It is for you to clean it up. All we're doing is just managing things behind the scenes to ensure that you can continue and grow and prosper and develop in the ways that you need to. It is not for another civilization to come down here and feel that they need to take care of you, because that's you handing over all your responsibilities, and it's no more different than you handing over all of your power to a government or another embodied agency. It is the exact same thing, and so we will not do that. There are civilizations watching you all around you. They are on your planet, they are in your planet, they are above your planet, they are in between your planet in different dimensions. You're being watched from all directions. but that is all that's happening. It's a watching. It's an observation in that way. It is not an involvement of coming down here and feeling that we're going to take over your planet or anything of that nature. No, that cannot happen, simply because the jurisdiction that takes place within your solar system has a great amount of, shall we say, force backing it. And so you would never have to concern yourself with a quote-unquote genuine alien invasion in that way. It doesn't work that way. Again, that is much more of an invention of your own science fiction. All right, we thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction with you. We will now return to the conduit and we'll speak to you again, as now as forever, all is one, and love is essence. Goodbye for now. Okay, well, thank you. I'm back here. So that's Adronis, everybody. So yeah, again, I do private sessions on my website. It's newearthteachings.com. So if people do want to have a chat with me or with Adronis, they can go there, and private sessions are available. I'm also looking to move into a membership site as well, too, that will offer greater mentoring, teaching, and eventually apprenticeship as well, too.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you, Brad. I really, really appreciate this and your time and sharing all this information and everything that you have to say.
Great. Thank you for the interview today. Really appreciate it.